don't stop. Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop.
Okay, there's something going on here. Yeah.
I was literally like,
Grind don't stop. 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 Grind don't stop.
hello. And if you saw us before, no, you didn't.
No, you
No, you
didn't.
No, you didn't. Welcome back to Chewed Gum. My name's Alyssa. We are joined by, Taylor. Are we using Taylor today?
Yeah. Yeah, whatever's
Okay,
fine. I'm fine with whatever.
The first time that
I feel
you and
like
I did a
now-
show together. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a bit of a delay. I feel like the first couple times I was on, it made sense to like use my like TikTok username, but I feel like Taylor works now.
The first time that we did a show together, I called you Taylor because I just didn't think about it. And I was like, did I just dox her? Did I just completely dox her on the internet?
No,
And
you
I was
didn't.
Okay.
No, I told them my name a while ago, so you're good.
Okay, great. This is Chewed Gum, and we talk about purity culture, and we talk about lady-related things. We talk about, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And you can call us at 720-619-2288. We do have some lines open, so you can call in and chat with us if you would like to. As a reminder, super chats of $5 or more will be read at the end of the show. And Taylor, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Honestly, nothing new to report. How about you?
Pretty good. I started
Yeah.
I started uploading some of like the individual calls onto my own YouTube channel, and it has seemed I have found the other side of the internet, and the comment section
The bad
is
side?
yes, I'm in the bad place right now on my YouTube account, and it is like I realized I get more like I'm really not bothered by people who want to like insult me physically or insult me like about my physical appearance or insult me about like because I make like sex ed content, people like will call me a whore or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care. Doesn't bother me, but when people like question my intelligence, it like does something to me and I'm like ah! And so that's
Yeah.
what people were
No,
doing
I
in the
totally
comments, and
understand
I
that.
was oof, it gets my fight or flight going. And that's
And
a
I
me
feel like-
thing.
I feel like once you're on that side of the internet, it like is hard to get out. I don't know why. They all like flock
Yeah.
together, I guess.
I know. So I don't know. I'm hoping that at some point,
It'll get better.
like it ends up sort of like turning around. But for now, whatever, it's fine. I just decided I'm not going to check the comments of YouTube for a little while, and
That's good.
That's what we're just gonna do. But anywho, aside from that, we're chilling. It's hot as hell, and
Yeah, I hate it.
it's disgusting. The summer is horrible.
I always feel bad saying that I hate summer because I know people are like, summer's so fun. And I'm not saying it's not fun at all, but I'm just a hater for summer. So, yeah, I don't
I'm
like it.
also a summer hater. I am a summer hater.
Yeah.
I feel like the way that people act when it's like 100 degrees outside, that's what I feel like that to me is the same in terms of inclement weather as like a snowstorm. I'm not going outside. It's
No,
100
yeah, same.
degrees.
Yeah, there's like
Horrible.
no fun to be had at 100 degrees. Even like swimming at that point is still rough, honestly. I'm not
wait.
about it.
You broke up, but I don't know if it broke up just on my end or if it broke up for everyone.
She's frozen. Oh, there she is.
Oh, she's back.
I don't know what's going on. Hopefully that doesn't keep happening. I was so proud of myself because when I first came on earlier, everything was fine. There was nothing to do, but yeah, we'll see if this lasts. It's a curse at this point. It's okay.
I know it's always like that. Okay, so we do have some callers, and one of them is really exciting because it's like we're gonna talk about someone who we all know in the chat. I'm gonna pull him in right now. We have Will, aka Monkey at Typewriter. Will,
Hello.
what the
Hi,
heck?
Will.
Okay, share your news because it's your news to share.
Okay. Well, so yeah, I got engaged about a couple weeks ago.
Woo! I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, it's okay. So I'm trying to give you the short version. I'm gonna try to give you guys the short version of this. So basically, I met this lovely gal through the live chat. And she, was like, oh, she just come back from Japan. She's been living in Japan for like the last 2 decades. We get to talking, just being like, oh, hey, so, we both live in relatively the same area. Let's be friends and all that kind of stuff. And then we started talking. We hit it off immediately, super hard, obviously. And then it turns out that we both played classical music as kids. And then it further turns out that we both literally attended the same music camp, and we literally knew each other very loosely at some point when we were like teenagers.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. Like I
What
literally
are the
mentioned this thing about
chances?
like a cello coach at my camp, like playing the Trogdor song from Homestar Runner. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like an early internet meme. But yeah, he did a skit where he plays the Trogdor song, and the chat probably knows what I'm talking about. And she's like, I was in that room, and I was like, you mean
That's
that coach?
so crazy.
Like, it happened another time, and he's like, no. She's like, no, I'm pretty sure that we went to the same camp at the same time. And so yeah,
my goodness.
That's wild.
and then it
That's
was
like
just
the
like a
invisible
further
string
just.
theory thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some very, like, kismet, like, if I believed in such things, I'd believe in such things kind of thing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, Will, I don't want to take away because this is your moment, but the same thing happened to me and my current boyfriend where we've been in the same room at the same time over and over again since we were like teenagers because he's like kind of from the same area and we like the same music.
Mhm.
So we've been at the same music festivals and concerts like
That's
at
cute.
least 10 times. Isn't that crazy? So we had a similar...
It is super
oh my
wild.
God. Will. Okay, and Will...
This gets really weird, though, because... So I lived in Japan for a year, and she lived in Japan for like the last 20, except for the year I was there. And she went to college in the same city, or near the same city I lived in. So like, we lived in the same area of Japan at some point, and we just missed each other, on opposite continents for the last 2 decades.
That is...
That's crazy.
So freaking cool. It was meant to be. And this is our first, to my knowledge, our first, the line wedding. Line engagement.
Well,
which is awesome.
I mean, mostly I had to just shove it in Sarah's face.
In whose face?
In Sarah's face, because Sarah talks. has the boyfriend that she met through here too.
Yeah, I know. So so we have Sarah Talks Podcast, who's also in the chat, and she met her boyfriend through the chat. And so okay, what I've basically learned is that the chat is accidentally
Horny.
setting people up. Horny, for sure, horny. And so I've talked to Jimmy before about like making like a singles group, and he was like, honestly, we've tried it before and people just simply don't behave. So he's like, I can't.
I was gonna say,
get
like,
mixed
as
up in
soon as the words came out of your mouth, I'm like, that is gonna be a problem.
Yeah, he was like, it's just not, we can't. And I was like, okay, got it, Roger. But for anybody in the chat, if you want to independently chat it up with any of the other horn dogs in it, there's people who are single here, and you guys are all, in the same. We all enjoy like one common thing, so I'm sure we enjoy lots of other things. So this is so exciting.
I mean, I will say, be safe. Like, up
For
until the point where we, like, verified who we were, like, I could have been a Jack Russell Terrier.
Jack Russell Terrier with opposable thumbs. How were you typing?
I mean, we don't have to get into the logistics of it. I'm just saying things happen.
No, you're right.
Mostly, the thing I really wanted to talk about, though, was, like, the fact that, like, this all kind of really did come out of the affirmations thing. And, like,
wow, well...
I feel... So, like, to bring it, like, back to something that's not just about me.
Wait, we have to tell Taylor, we have to catch her up. So, a while ago, Will had called. I think, actually, was it during your call, or maybe I was telling someone else? I don't remember.
I can't remember.
No, it was when that was when I called. Because then Promise said that, like, Promise was like, oh yeah, Alyssa told me to do the same thing, and then we made each other like promise to do it, and then follow through.
Yeah, you held up on your bargain, on your end of the bargain. So I had Will go through the exercise that I do with my coaching clients to make affirmations that are like specifically for them, and for this community of skeptics, doing something like affirmations feels like very woo-woo, and like there's a lot of resistance to it, honestly, which is fine. But there's like 40 years of research behind affirmations being helpful to create just like positive mindset and whatever. And so so Will started doing them, and I remember, Will, didn't you have them like behind your front door or something too?
Yeah. So I've got them basically like taped to like right above my peephole in my front door.
Yeah, I love it. And so you feel
That's
like that
amazing.
helped you? Explain why you feel like it helped.
Well, okay, so it's like so the placement means like I have to look at this thing like right when I leave, and like it's like Alyssa was saying, like it's all about like your internal psychology. Like there's no like I think the thing that people like in this community particularly get really like punchy about is that it feels like it's like some like The Secret style like casting intentionality out into the universe and positive energy and vibrations and pass the bong, and I feel like what it is it's about like basically getting your brain into a place where like you're more likely to behave like a better version of yourself. And like really focus on like things that are important to you about you and that you want to communicate out,
Yeah, I was saying with a client earlier today, the conversation that you're in your head is often the one that you're creating. So like if you're going through your day and your life and you're constantly thinking about negative things, that's over and over what you're going to create. And so Maureen in the chat asked if I could go over the affirmations again. So I'll give like a brief of how I have my coaching clients do it. So
Maureen asked if one of the callers was going to insult chat. So lots of you type as if you have mismatched socks.
I love it. So for the affirmations, what I have you do is, what I suggest people do is make a like word bank of things that they know that they are by evidence, like positive, like positive attributes about yourself that you know you have, and if it's helpful, you can break it up into like some that are related to work, some that are related to friends, some that are related to family, like however you want to do that. And once you have a good word bank of like 12 to 15, then start making them into statements where you group them into 3. So it's like, I am blank, blank, blank. And then those are affirmations that are based on evidence, so that sometimes when we're reading affirmations and like they're just from like an Instagram account, it doesn't like resonate as much, because you're like, if it just says I am strong, it's like, okay, whatever. But if you wrote I am strong because you were referring to like a specific experience in your life, then every time you see it, even if it is exactly the same word, you're going back to that place and you're being like, in that moment, I was actually really strong. And you'll believe it way more than you will if you just like pulled it off of Instagram. So and then
that
like
makes a lot of
being
sense.
and so being able to put them in a place where you see them every day, like Will did, is awesome. And I'm so glad. I'm so happy for you guys. And you have to send us pictures, please.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's so weird. Like it's actually like coming together right now, and I don't. It's hard to believe that like this is like the reality of my situation. It's just
That's so
I
sweet.
don't understand it, but like it feels like my life has like kind of reached a completion point where it's like, oh, this is where I was heading. That makes sense, and it just feels right. But yeah, no, and again, like I really like. Part of why I wanted to, because I was thinking about it, like I'd love to call, but I don't want to call just be like, guess what, I'm getting hitched,
No,
And like I remembered all of the
great news.
But I remembered all the pushback that you were getting on this, and I'm like, I'm still doing this, and I feel like I'm about as skeptical as anyone else here, But like for me, and like so, I did it a little bit different. So I basically put up like 5 like 2-word phrases. So like, I'm a great father, I'm a loyal friend, I'm an amazing boyfriend. That one got added recently. Still feral and pretty funny, It's just like I got these like 5 things that just kind of stick with me. That like I'm like, these are the things that matter to me. But it's basically, other than that, it works exactly like you were saying. Every time I see these kind of words out in the world, like it hits that same kind of little dopamine switch in my brain. And the intentionality is such a hard thing to maintain, and when the world is as insane as it is, and I don't think the world's gonna back off, so it's like I gotta do it.
That's a good way to look at it.
It is. It's such a good way to look at it, because like we can only control what we can control. And it's so interesting because I had this conversation earlier today too with a coaching client about how sometimes taking responsibility feels very hard, but it actually is the only thing that gives us control over a situation. So it's like, if you're going to take responsibility for like, I am in a negative thought pattern and I have a really hard time breaking it, but that's my responsibility. I'm creating that every single day. Now you put yourself in a position to be like, I create that every single day, so I actually can change it. Like it's hard, but it's worthy of doing. Like it creates really great results like this, which is so awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like the last point I just kind of want to throw in there is I feel like this is like the kind of emotional regulatory exercise that is really lacking for like, whenever we're getting these, because, you guys never talk about men's issues. I don't know if you've heard, but many people have called about your complete lack of conversation about men's issues.
Yeah.
It's precocious. But like, I truly think like this is one of those things that like, that all these manosphere kids are missing, that like, exactly what you said about, taking responsibility is the only control that you can have over a situation, like the whole manosphere is about, selling this idea that like, oh, you can't get laid because of things that are completely outside of your control. You know, you're not one of these like top 10% high value, taller than 6 foot with an 8-foot dick or with an 8-inch dick or whatever, you know, like, so, you know, why even bother trying? And so it becomes this whole like, you know, and then we get all of the, you know, the things, the, you know,
all the things.
Yeah, the awful behavior.
Yeah, but it's also like when you're getting told over and over again things like that, where like, you know, if you don't look a certain way or you don't like make a certain amount of money or whatever it is, and that makes you feel not worthy of the life that you want, the perfect way to combat it is like reminding yourself every single day, I am worthy, and I'm worthy because I know I am a compassionate father, and I am a great listener to my friends and my family, and I like all of these things, like those I am statements, they just friggin' work.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
just
and yeah,
do.
it's not magic. It's not, you know, about vibrating or, you know, ghosts or vespers or any of that. You know, it's just, you're dumb and you're easy to trick, so go ahead and trick yourself.
No, truly, it is kind of gaslighting yourself, but in a way that's helpful.
Well, I mean, you know what? Like, sometimes gas makes for good lights.
No, you're so right. And also, the alternative is you spend your whole life gaslighting yourself into thinking that you are like this negative thing that you are actually not. But then when you're going through this whole exercise and you're making these statements based on who you are, in like grounded in evidence of who you are, then what you're saying is not really even gaslighting yourself. It's just reminding yourself of the truth in moments where you just need a little push towards that.
Yeah, maybe it's the best spin on the truth, but it's, you know,
Yeah,
like all of those things are at times at least true.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, but yeah, again, it's just, I think if we could get more of these guys on that track, I mean, the you know, I hate to go all like Star Wars about it, but like the problem is like the manosphere, it's quicker, it's more seductive, you know, it's easier to fall into, but it is the dark side.
Yeah. Well, it's also the dark side is always easier to fall into because it's like it always doing. I hate this phrase, but like doing the work is so much harder, but it creates better patterns so that you are like building a toolkit that you can rely on for all of the crazy stuff that's going to inevitably happen in our lives versus like if you want to like cross your arms and stomp your feet and say the world is not fair and girls don't want to touch my pee-pee, then you can do that if you want to, but it's not going to like bring you women. But you know what will bring you women, or at a minimum just a more fulfilling life, is creating one. It's like showing up in integrity every day and like showing up for your friends and family and the people in your community as close as you can to the best of your ability, like, you know, the best version of yourself. That will create a life that you really love. But like stomping your feet and saying that like no women will sleep with you is like, what are we talking about?
Exactly. I mean, like, once you do that, it's amazing how, like, receptive people are to flawed human beings when it really comes down to it. But, like, you just gotta kind of not be a little bitch.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I know there's probably a better way to say that, but, like, kind of the thrust of it is, like, you just gotta not be, like, you just be better than whatever that is.
Yeah.
Don't show up on r/nice guys.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, just, it sounds and our instinct is to avoid taking responsibility, but like, you're a perfect example of how powerful and helpful it is when you do, because that's the only way you get to have that control over life. Like, imagine a world where you have more control over your life and all you had to do was like accept that, okay, like I actually don't do everything perfectly and I could probably change some of my habits. And if it's as easy as putting affirmations on your door by your peephole, like, come on.
I mean, if the risk is me feeling like I look stupid, like I do that recreationally every day, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and like, I mean, initially, I mean, going way back, like initially the first time I ever called you guys, it was about like basically not passing like toxically masculine traits on to my son as he grows up. And
I remember.
like, I think, you know, and I think like this is like not to like pat myself too hard on the ass, but like I feel like this is sort of one of those things that like when guys are like, what can I do? It's like I mean, there's a ton of fathers out there, but even if you're not a father, like if you're a guy who's more senior at work and a bunch of younger guys are like around, you know, propagating like really like toxically masculine shit, like be the one who steps up and is like, you guys, yeah, that sounds like really dumb, and you guys are, you know, like be the person who steps up is all, you know, it's like it's that easy. And I think like right now in our culture we're at such a point where like that ability in men is both like under attack and also like so able to be fostered. Like the ground is so ripe for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's so much there, and it's such like a complicated what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's a complicated dynamic, and all of it when people ask like how are we going to get ahead of the male loneliness stuff, like these are men who are like ending up being dangerous and they're, you know, red pill and whatever. I actually there's no one answer for it, but I think showing up as much as we can in like community and compassion where we can, and then offering resources like, let's try this affirmation exercise. Like you do it by yourself. No one has to watch you. No one has to know that you're doing it if you feel weird or dumb or embarrassed. Like try little things and just see if it gets you to a different place. But
right.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I think, you know, and telling people that like it's okay to try these things. It's okay to like Yeah,
it is. And you have the opportunity to like give it a shot and like maybe improve your day-to-day life. And some of these things will land with people and some of them won't, and then there'll be another method, another tool that you'll get that will do that for you. But affirmations are so easy, you could do them at home. So
100%.
So yeah. But thank you so much for calling. I am so happy for you.
Honestly, thank you. Like, you and Promise have been like such a like crazy part of my life the last like year, and it's been such a freaking like it's just been such a gift. And I'm sorry I didn't have more for you, Taylor. This is sort of like the culmination of a long time, but I've really enjoyed you on the line. I'm really glad you're permanent.
Oh, yay!
Oh, thank you, and congratulations. That's so amazing.
Thanks.
All right. Well,
I'll let you guys go on to the next call.
Yeah, we'll see you in the chat. We love you.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye, Will.
Bye.
Oh, so exciting.
That is so exciting. I'm really sad because one of my lights died like literally halfway through that. So sorry for the lighting. Once again, I'm gonna have to buy a new ring light. I have two, but I need a third apparently. So yeah.
Do you have one that plugs into the wall?
I have, all three of them are plugged in.
Really?
It just
and it died?
it went kaput. Like I even unplugged it and plugged it back in earlier, and it's just gone. And I've used it maybe twice. So I think I'm just gonna go all out and get like a really good one, and then no more problems.
Then you won't have to worry about it again. Yeah. Oh my god, you're repelling the technology at this point.
I know, it hates me.
That's so funny. But we do have some more calls, but before we get to them, I want to remind everyone to go to patreon.com/calltheline for lots of other bonus content and other fun perks. And let's look at what shows we have going on. Will I read this right? Probably not, but we're going to try. So, okay, let's see. Tomorrow is the 9th. We have The Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty, Brady Goodwin, and I guess Arden is... yeah, okay. That's the producer line. I got it. Okay. And then on the 10th, we have TACIS with Arden and Luxander. On the 13th, The Sunday Show with Seth and Paul. On Monday, where are we? 13th? Okay. And then I'm literally using my finger because I cannot figure this out. On the 14th, we have Skeptalk with Forrest, and the other host is TBD. And then we are back next week for Chewed Gum, and it is you and I again. Taylor? Yeah, girl.
I know, I'm on like all month, and I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be a good time.
It's always a good time in this corner of the world. Okay, so we have we have a bunch of theists who called in. This is exciting. I feel like we haven't had theists call in this
finally.
show in a while. Yeah. Are you looking at Call-In Studio? Like, do you have a preference of any of the calls?
I still don't have that. I don't know really. I haven't had it explained to me yet, or shown what to do.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to know if you saw them, if there was any that you preferred. Okay, so I think we have one caller who's a theist who has been waiting the longest. So I'm going to pull him in first. His name is Alex. Hi, Alex. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to finally be able to talk to you guys. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Thanks for asking.
I'm good. As you can see, I've called in because I have brand new evidence for God. But first, I want to ask you guys, why do you not believe in God?
For me, it's pretty simple. Just no proof. I haven't seen anything that actually proves there's a God, so there's no reason. I feel like there's no reason for me to assume there is.
Yeah, okay. I feel similarly. I don't feel like there's a reason to believe, and I also feel like many times there have been more opportunities for God to show himself, and he chooses not to. So there's a lot there, but I just don't believe it to be true.
So you guys used to be Christians, right?
Yeah. I was. I'm not sure. Alyssa, did you say you were?
Yes, raised Roman Catholic. Okay. Sorry, I'm putting my dog on the bed.
That's
but
right.
Yes.
Okay. So since you used to be a Christian, you would say that you have called to God sincerely and asked him to reveal himself to you, right?
Right.
Okay, so I believe that anybody who has at least asked him to reveal himself to them, he has actually revealed himself, but you need to pray for discernment to be able to understand that he has revealed himself to you. So even though it hasn't seemed like it so far, he has revealed himself to you, and you should pray for him to come see you. That's my evidence for God. So if you pray for him to reveal himself to you, then he will. Or pray for the discernment to understand it.
How do you know what's discernment and what's you just making stuff up?
How do I know what discernment is?
Yeah, versus your own, your own opinion, if it's God speaking to you or whatever.
Because I prayed and he revealed himself to me.
But if I say, Alex, that I'm going to pray really hard to the magical pink unicorn that I believe to be a god, and then I tell you that I heard from this magical pink unicorn and she is God and your God is not real, how am I supposed to know? How are you supposed to tell me what God is real, what God is not? It's not, you're then relying on anecdotal evidence again. Like that's not evidence at all.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I'm kind of confused. I don't understand. Why would you praise the pink unicorn in the first place? I'm sorry. I don't understand.
Well,
Because-
just say it's a different god then that already exists.
That's not the true God, though. Why would
Okay.
you? That's not the true
How can
God.
you prove that?
Because he revealed himself to me. I have a relationship with God. I know him. He's revealed himself to me.
Okay, and what if other people say their god revealed them to them?
They need to have some reliable evidence because clearly they're going through some kind of mental disorder. That's not true.
But that's
But
how-
their
that's
evidence
how-
is just as reliable as yours.
It's
No,
exactly
it's not.
the
It's
same.
completely different.
How is it different?
How?
Okay, because you guys know that God says that He reveals Himself to anybody that asks, right?
Because you're telling me that right now, I guess.
And not just that, but there are a bunch of like prophecies in the Bible that have come true. Like the Bible has predicted a bunch of stuff.
Like what?
That for example, the Euphrates River will dry up.
The Euphrates River has dried up and like filled back up many times. So, don't you think it's probably
Many times?
likely that yes. You can go see picture. I think you can look up like Google Earth and look up different years of when it dried up and then like it filling back up. And don't you think it's probably likely that back then the same thing happened, possibly? Because I mean, it's kind of like a normal part of nature.
Okay. Well, that's not a normal part of nature. The Euphrates River, it's a large river. Like it's not just going to dry up multiple times and fill back up. That's not true.
Alex, I have my problem with this, because we could go through parts of the Bible all day long and kind of like go back and forth on it. The problem is I don't think that the Bible is anything more than a storybook. Like it's not more true to me than Harry Potter is. It's just a book. I don't believe in it.
It's disrespectful that someone sees it as a book? That's not true?
That you see it as a storybook. Like you could at least like respect it. Like I don't call the Quran a storybook.
But
that seems hurtful.
what if I genuinely believe that the person writing it was writing a story? Like, what if I think that they didn't mean it in a literal way? Because a lot of Christians don't think a lot of it was written in a literal way.
And you've like actually like prayed over it? Like prayed to understand?
As like what would change? I'm confused. Would I just pray and then I would think it's real? I don't understand.
You would pray for understanding, and then God will help you to understand. Like people say all the time that there's a bunch of immoral stuff in the Bible, which I don't believe is true. Like if you pray for God to help you understand it, then He'll help you understand it, and it won't be seen as immoral anymore. But that's besides the point. If you pray for understanding, then He'll help you understand why it's not a storybook, why it's actually like documented historical events.
But if God is so powerful, why is He unable to provide people who no longer believe, people who also, by the way, did believe for a long time? Why was He unable to do one small thing to reinstate their belief? Because we have a lot of people on this channel who were devout Christians. Like Taylor, I don't know like the extent of your experience as much, but I know like Promise Eve was an evangelical, like she led worship. She fully believed, and it slowly started to kind of fall apart for her. Why, if God is so powerful, why was He not able to get her back on board when she knows the Bible backwards and forwards?
All right. Well, for one, if you fall out of belief, then you weren't a Christian in the first place, because a true Christian wouldn't stop believing over not understanding. If you don't understand, you would pray for God to help you understand it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm failing to understand.
So again, like I'll speak to Promise's experience to how she's explained it on this show as well. This is a person who grew up writing journals every single day as a child to Jesus. She believed. She believed. Trust me, you can check all of her socials. She was a worship leader. She absolutely believed. And as she continued to study the Bible, it started to make less and less sense to her. So if God is so powerful, there are a lot of inconsistencies in the Bible. It contradicts itself over and over again.
For example, what?
I'm not as much. I don't know. I don't know the Bible that well. But Taylor, do you have any examples off the top of your head?
Yeah, I have like two ones that I point to often because they are very contradictory, and that is Judas's death. It says he dies in two different ways in the Bible. I don't really want to get graphic with it because I don't know what YouTube is about when it comes to that, but they're two very, very different ways of dying, and he dies apparently both ways, and it doesn't make any sense. And then the other one is there's a Bible verse saying that nobody can see God's face and live. And then there's a Bible verse later on of someone saying, I think it was Jacob, saying, I saw God's face and I lived. Like, I missed word for word.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I know what you're referring to. For your first example on Judas's death, as long as the book says that he died, I fail to understand why it would matter so much to you how he died. Like, why would that be relevant? And
because
second off,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it matters. If a small detail like that, which honestly, how someone died isn't that small of a detail anyway. If a detail like that is wrong, what else is wrong? You know what I mean? That shows if something is showed to be inconsistent, that's a problem, don't you think?
Okay. For your second point on what was it? People can't see God face to face. Okay, people point to that a lot, but you have to be anointed to be able to see God face to face. If you're a regular person, you can't see him face to face. But the reason why some people in the Bible were able to see him was because they were selected by God and anointed to be able to do so.
Does it say that? I don't think it says that.
In the Bible?
It says that he was anointed to be able to see his face. I don't think so, but...
Like, for example, when Moses saw the burning bush, God chose him to set his people free. God chose him, so Moses was anointed to do that, and God gave him permission to see him face to face.
Okay, so here are some more contradictions. The story of creation in Genesis 1 versus Genesis 2. In Genesis 1, humans are created after animals and plants, and male and female are created together. In Genesis 2, man is created before plants and animals, and women are created after man from his rib. And another one is the death of Judas. We just talked about that now. Oh, God, the ways are grisly. Yikes. That's in Matthew, and in Acts, they are completely different. The third contradiction, Noah's animals in Genesis 6, 2 of every kind. In Genesis 7, 7 pairs of clean animals, 2 unclean. Another one, who carried Jesus's cross? In John, Jesus carries it. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Simon of Cyrene is forced to carry it. There's another one, is God peaceful or vengeful? In Romans, they say God of peace. In Exodus, they say the Lord is a man of war. About judging others in Matthew.
Exodus not say that.
Yes, Exodus 13:3. The Lord is a man of war. It
does not say that.
Also, okay. Doesn't matter. I gave you 5 other examples, and I can keep going. Should we judge others? Matthew 7:1. Judge not that you should be judged. And in John 7:24, judge with righteous judgment. How many sons did Saul have? In 1 Samuel, he has 3 sons. In 1 Samuel, he has 3 sons. In 2 Samuel, he has 5 sons. Adopted / grandsons, possibly, but still confusing. So like it goes on and on, but at the end of the day, if this book is nothing more than stories to me, anything that happens in it, whether it's a contradiction or not, doesn't mean anything more to me than any other story. And there are some Christians who say that the Bible is stories that are meant to be representations for humanity to build off of. And then there are other people who say that they're completely literal. So there's 40,000 denominations, literally 40,000 denominations of Christianity. So, and they all say different things about this one book that is supposed to be the one true book. So all of that
Can I
in
respond?
combination, yeah, let me finish my sentence. All of that in combination is not creating a situation that feels like a solid ground for me to believe. Proceed.
Okay. Let me tell you something. God himself did not write the Bible. God told people what he wanted them to put in the Bible, and then they put it in the Bible. The Bible was written by imperfect people, but it has a perfect message from a perfect being. That's why there's so many inconsistencies, because it was created and published by imperfect people.
If the message is so perfect, then it should be clear, and we shouldn't need 40,000 denominations of it. But we have 40,000 denominations because the message is not clear, and because God didn't write the Bible and imperfect human beings wrote the Bible, they could have written literally whatever they wanted, and it like we're all just supposed to believe it to be true.
Yes, because that's where the faith part comes in. How else will God decide who will stay with him forever in heaven for eternity or who will go to hell? That's where the faith part comes in.
Do you believe that people who are Muslim are all going back, or are none of them are going to heaven because they don't believe in the same God as you?
I mean, yes, because the Bible says so.
That's interesting.
What is the difference between that, like your book saying that and their book saying that about you? What's the difference? Like, you're not providing anything.
Well, the Bible has more confirmed prophecies than the Quran.
Nothing about the... Oh, wait, Taylor froze. Nothing about the Bible has been confirmed.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. No, the
You're back,
resurrection
Taylor.
of Jesus has... The resurrection and the crucifixion of Jesus has been confirmed.
I have not
The
seen that
resurrection
even
has
once.
definitely not.
The resurrection
Yes,
has not been
Scientists and
confirmed.
scholars have.
And actual... No, they have not. Alex, if you can provide any resource, any source for that is legitimate, then we can have that conversation. But there is no evidence.
The Bible has
no.
the evidence.
The Bible is not scientific evidence. You told me that there was scientific evidence, that researchers have found out that there's... Sorry, you said researchers, not scientific. I'm sorry. You said that research shows that there's evidence of that. There is no evidence of that. And do you know that after Jesus was resurrected, there's also a story shortly after that all of these other people who had died also are resurrected. And it's only mentioned in one book in the Bible. Why do people not talk about Jesus was not the only one who was resurrected according to your Bible? So why is that the most amazing thing that we've ever seen? But then there's a story later in the Bible of all of these other dead people who are also resurrected, and there was a full zombie apocalypse. And we don't talk about that.
Because
do you understand
Jesus
why
was
like the
sent to-
inconsistencies are important? The inconsistencies are what make this, are what take this book that you're telling me is perfect, and it clearly is not perfect. It takes a book that is allegedly perfect and makes it into something that I have many, many questions about. And we'll always hit a crossroads when it comes to faith, because if you have faith and I don't, like, there's no real way for us to move past that. And I also am truthfully not interested in trying to deconstruct someone's faith who doesn't want it deconstructed. You know, like, if that's what you want to believe, then I'm happy to have you believe that, but none of this is evidence. Yes, but
Okay.
you have to, Alex, you have to wait for me to finish my sentence. You keep asking me if you can respond. Of course you can respond, but if I'm in the middle of a sentence, you just have to like wait for me to wrap it up. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, my bad. Okay, I don't know where to start with that. Okay, yes, the Bible is the perfect word of God, but I don't know how else to tell you this. It was the perfect message given to imperfect people to send out into the world. So I don't even know why you're having these random ass unimportant questions about who was dead and this contradiction and that when it doesn't even make any sense. If it all points to the fact that the person died, why would it even matter? But it was written by imperfect people. That's why there's inconsistencies. Though it is the perfect word of God.
But you're being inconsistent because you said there was no contradictions, and then like we bring up contradictions, and now you're saying like it's imperfect. I don't understand that.
Well, there's no contradictions with God's words, but there's contradictions with the people who spread His message.
So then why should I believe anything in it?
And why did He give us such an unreliable path to know what He said? Why wouldn't He be more clear or have them have a better understanding?
It is a reliable path because God says directly in the Bible, if you pray for Him to reveal Himself to you, He will reveal Himself to you. That's the clearest. That's the only message that you would possibly need.
And how do we know? How do we know they got that right?
How do we know they got that right?
Mm-hmm.
Because God is love and He's merciful. And if you pray for Him to reveal Himself to you, He's going to do it because He loves you and He's merciful.
That's not an answer, though.
I was talking about Promise, who is another co-host on the show, and like I'm using her as an example because she's talked a lot about her experience, and her experience with her faith is much more in depth than mine was. She talks about how when she started to feel like the Bible was not true, she prayed every day for God to give her a sign. Every day, over and over again, she so badly wanted God to give her a sign. Her whole family is evangelical. Like they are like figures in the evangelical church. You think that this girl wanted to leave? You think that one day she wanted her faith to fall and her whole world to shatter and be excommunicated from this community? Of course not. She prayed genuinely and truly. So why did God not show Himself to her when she was ready and willing to accept it?
Okay, so if she is possessed by the devil, which the Bible says that's what those kinds of people are, if she was possessed by the devil, then obviously she would want to leave her family no matter the...
That's a cop-out. That's a complete cop-out, and it's insulting. Maybe don't say that.
How is that a cop-out, and how is that insulting?
You're
telling someone they're possessed by the devil?
Well,
so if you no longer believe, but you understand how manipulative that is, right? It's you either believe, and if you believed and now you don't, and you're asking for a sign, and God doesn't give you a sign, then you're possessed by the devil. Like there's like an answer for everything that's still within the faith. You understand how like that
that's not
just
manipulative.
sounds. It sounds manipulative. It sounds like, well, if what you're like, why can't the answer be, I don't know? Why is the answer that she got possessed by a devil? Like, what are we, Alex? Now we're talking about Harry Potter. Like, now we're in fantasy
I've never
land.
read Harry Potter, but I'm pretty sure there's no demons in Harry Potter. But either way, if she was, okay, that's the only explanation. Because if she wanted to randomly leave her family, leave this life that God has built for her, all for something that she can't prove, then she's probably possessed by the devil and she needs help, and y'all should be praying for her. What's her name? I will be praying for her, actually.
That's so unserious.
She doesn't need your prayers, Alex. And I think that here's the thing. If we don't believe that anything in the Bible is true, and the only evidence that you have for God being real is the Bible, we are at an impasse. Like, if the only evidence you have is faith and the Bible, then we're at an impasse.
Okay, well, I'm sure, okay, that's not the only evidence I have. Like, I'm sure you've heard this before, but if you look around into the world, like, everything is planned perfectly. There's no way that would just come into existence randomly like that. That is evidence for God. And I know you're probably not going to accept that.
I was just gonna say there are really a lot of imperfect things when it comes to design of like nature or animals or us.
Like what? Are you gonna bring up like predator and prey or like something like that? What?
No. If we're talking about the body functions perfectly, it obviously doesn't. You know what I mean? There's so many things that can go wrong with our bodies, or we can be born that way, or we can be born without certain things that we should have, or with
Are you
extra
talking about
things we
disabled
shouldn't
people?
have.
What if
All
a
different
person
things.
is disabled because it's
Diseases.
part of God's plan?
Okay,
This is
and
a
so
cop
is
out
it
for
part of
every
is
single
it
thing
part
you're
of
saying, though.
is it a part of God's plan that 25,000 people die every day for lack of food and clean water? 10,000 of those are children. Is that part of God's plan?
I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but yes, because God is going
Okay,
to use
so
it
then
in the end to bring glory to His name.
So here's the thing then, Alex. Then you're going to have two jobs for me the next time you call, because I think we're at an impasse right now and we have a bunch of other calls, so I want to get to them just partially for time's sake. The next time you call, I want you to have, you can continue with your evidence for why you believe that God is real. But I would love if
Because
it
I
were
have a
not
relationship, He's
evidence-based
revealed
in the
Himself to me. Like, we talk every day.
Okay.
We have a physical relationship, a sexual relationship.
A sexual relationship, Alex. Miss Girl, what? Okay. The other part of it is, even if you were to convince me that God is real, from my evaluation, he's a shitbag person. So
For what? For what?
how do you have
For what?
the most the highest power possible, and you're allowing tens of thousands of children to die every single day? You have enough power to give people food and water at a minimum, and that's not that, and you're unable to do that for, at a minimum, children. So you're not that
But it's not His
powerful.
fault that the
And
children are suffering, though.
also,
That's because of the people around the children. It's free will.
You said it was his will.
this is
You said that was.
This is the
Well, yes,
same
it's
like
God's.
loop that I get in all the time. It's every time something happens where it's like, yeah, I guess actually God could probably intervene. It's always like, well, that's free will. It's not. How is it free will and the people around them? If you were born into a home where there was not enough money to buy food, let's say you're born into poverty, or you're born into an area like an area of the world where there is food scarcity. Maybe the crops didn't come in that year, whatever it is. Whose fault
Well,
is
that's
that?
why God gives people that an opportunity to get out of those situations. Like, this might sound ridiculous, but for example, look at LeBron James. Look at where he's at right now. God gives everybody an opportunity to get out of the situations that they are born into.
What about the people who don't get opportunities to get out of those situations? You're cherry picking information.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's because of the free will of the people around them. It's not God's fault.
Okay. I am done with this call for now. You're welcome to call back another time. But I think we're going to move on to other callers.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You
Okay.
too, have a good day.
Bye, Alex. You too. Bye-bye. It's always that same loop.
And I was like, I'm just like thinking in my head, is this a troll? Just because of the but it's just like very generic. Like, I don't know. There was no give and take. Like I guess I just run into a lot more Christians who are at least willing to talk about some things, but there was really nothing to talk about, because they're so set on every single thing.
Well, and what is always, it's like the same, now that I've done this show for like, it's over a year now, which is crazy. I've heard the same arguments over and over again, where it's like, well, if the impasse is faith, then we have not made progress. If the impasse is the proof is the Bible, we have not made progress. Like, there's so many of these like the same like stopping points every time, and I'm waiting for someone to give me like anything. We have so many shows every single week, and we've done this channel for, I mean, I've been here a year. I don't know how long this like entire channel has done all of their shows, and we have yet to have someone be able to give us any tangible evidence. And so every time someone calls and they're like, I have the evidence, I'm like, I already am like, how could you believe that you do when almost every day of the week we have a show and we have people who call in every single day, and like, it's like, I don't know, it's an uphill battle a little bit.
And it's the same, like, quote unquote evidence every time.
Yeah. I know. A sexual relationship.
I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to ask what they were talking about. I've never heard that in my life. Have you?
I have, and I have not asked for other information because I too don't really want to know, and I'm nervous for what that means.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I had the same feelings towards it. I was like, I don't think I want to actually know.
Yeah. We have some other theists who are on hold. I'm just going to look really quickly and see if there's any difference in these conversations. Okay. Let's go for okay, well, let's go for the person who's been on hold the longest. This is Paul. Oh, hi, Paul. I can hear myself echoing, so maybe mute the video if you're watching.
All right.
Paul? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. How's it going?
Hello.
Honestly, it was very painful listening to Alex. I mean, I am a theist, but I mean, my gosh, that was very painful.
I think he was maybe a little young, so I think he was like a little, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
he did sound
I don't
really
know.
young.
I don't know. Anyway, Paul, I would love to know more about your topic that you called in for. So, please share.
Yeah, it's a cosmological argument that, if you go to the origins of the universe and look at what was there before the universe came into existence, which there's no empirical evidence to prove that I've talked to you guys before, and, the argument was, oh, well, how do you know the universe had a beginning? Well, the universe is finite, and something that's finite, or the universe the Big Bang had a beginning, so that makes the universe finite. And there's no empirical evidence to prove that there was something before our universe was there.
Wait, Paul, one quick thing. Your audio's really it's breaking up. It's really choppy. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't know if you're on speaker or not on speaker, or I don't know if there's anything you can try and change maybe.
I could call back. I'll call back because I'm probably in a bad area. But all right,
okay.
I'll call back.
Call back another time, okay? We'll talk to you soon. Okay. I feel bad, but I couldn't hear, the choppiness was so distracting. I was like, I can't understand what he's saying.
Yeah, it was rough, but my camera's being rough too, so.
Girl, we're having a bad tech day. What do you... well, good news is we have some more theists who are on. This is so exciting because we don't get enough theists on this system, and I'm kind of relieved that I've had some because of the whole YouTube comment situation. I'm I don't know that I felt like fighting with people over purity culture today, and I would much rather have this conversation. Okay, so let's pull David. Oh, from New York. Hi, David.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah. Sorry, this is my first time actually coming across you. I saw you 2 hours ago. I saw a video and I came back to watch it and I saw you were live, so I decided to just call in.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, glad you found us. What did you want to talk about today?
I was listening to the previous conversations, and I guess my main question was, you're atheist because you don't believe there is sufficient evidence to prove there is a God. So my question is, what would it take for you to believe there's a God? What evidence could, like, theoretically, I mean, just hypothetically, what evidence would it take for you to believe that there's a God?
Probably him presenting himself.
Yeah, I think
In
this
what
one's always a
way?
hard. Taylor, go ahead.
In what way? I don't know. He could actually just speak to me, I guess. But like in a way that isn't confusing, in a way that I know is not from myself, but from him directly. Does that make sense? Or actually no, because people hear voices all the time. Yeah, I think I would have to see him physically and be able to, see him for what he is. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I guess if that involves a miracle or doing something crazy.
Yeah,
Sure,
I
sure.
feel similarly
Yeah.
where I think I would have to like really experience. I don't know. It's hard for me to even say because part of me is like, if I were to experience something that felt like a miracle to me, at this point right now, I would be more likely to process that as like, this is an amazing like combination of consequences to make this all work. And it would have to be like something that is truly like there is no other option than to believe. Because at this point, I don't know that they're really, I don't know. But then there are some people who have experiences that feel like miracles to them. But I think that I would need that personal experience for me to be on board with that. And
All right, that's
also,
a good answer.
we have another host on this channel. His name's Matt Dillahunty, and he says his response to this question is I don't know, but God should. which is also a good point.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, but if God is all powerful, all knowing, he should know what he could provide to people who are non-believers that would help them believe, especially if he is meant to be this like all-loving figure who wants everyone to be in heaven if possible and make the right choices if possible. It's like, okay, well then help us. Why can't you find an alternative way based on your infinite knowledge to help people who are not believers? You allegedly love all of us. So don't you want us all to go to heaven and help and aid us in believing?
Yeah, I think that's one. I'd say the way I look at it is that he has given us these, like you mentioned, other people having miracles, but you want to experience it for yourself, which is understandable. But I'd say from the Christian perspective, would say that you need to allow yourself to experience that. If you're already closed off, there's almost nowhere you're going to experience that, even if it's right in front of you. Like they're still flat earthers to this day, right? Because they don't want to believe the evidence that's in front of them. In terms of, you mentioned God speaking to you earlier. If, like, one of the clearest ways that he's told us that the way to his word is the Bible. So that's our evidence of God. And I heard recently that the Bible is not just a bunch of stories. They are historical manuscripts, almost like the oldest book in the world, like the oldest manuscripts in the world that have been carried down through generations very carefully and are in these, museums. Like, people take really good care of them. They're
The Bible isn't the oldest book
facts
in history. That's just not true.
I mean, that depends on. I'm not saying the Bible itself. The Bible is a combination of thousands of manuscripts
Okay, the
put
writing.
together.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah. So, that's you. I look at it even from a historical standpoint, including all the characters in there, including Jesus. We know he was a historical person. he really lived and he really died on the cross. I think the big question is whether he rose from the dead. But also, back to the thing about you letting him in the Bible, he says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him and he with me." So you have to allow him to be able to do that. You have to open up your heart. You have to open up yourself to, like, the same way like you want to love, you have to open up yourself to some sort of vulnerability in order to let that happen. It's not going to happen if you're just closed off. And I think there are other ways that just show that he, like, your conscience is also a way that he talks to you. Like, that's something that's unique to humans, not animals or any other creature, but just humans with a mind who have been created by God.
We don't know if animals experience God, and like if we have no idea if animals experience the God that you're referring to. We don't know.
I'm not saying they experience God, but I mean, okay, that was just a random. I was talking about conscience, but that's.
I'm just looking at my dog, and I'm like, I'm looking at my dog, and I'm like, if there was anyone who was going to experience God, he's really cute, and it's probably him. But David, so what I think, wait, I had a point and I forgot it. Did I interrupt your thought? You can continue, and then if I remember my thing, I'll jump in after.
No, not really. I was saying, like, scripture, conscience, you have to let him open yourself. You have to open yourself up. The Bible is historical. What else did I say? Manuscripts.
I've never been closed off to new information, or like, I've never been, if he wanted to show himself to me, I would always be open to it, but it hasn't happened yet.
That was the question, really. What would it take?
I'm curious too what your thought is of people who were religious, especially people who are in like fundamentalist environments where it's very involved, like not your sort of like garden variety goes to church on holidays practicing, but people who are really devout and at some point, for whatever reason, fall out of their faith. Those are people who were very open, and for one reason or another, we've now gotten to a point where they no longer believe.
I mean, that's something that we all go through, right? Even Christians, it's even in the Bible, there are many people, even his own disciples, sometimes struggle, right? And everyone is different. You don't look at I don't like to say religion because religion is something different, but we have a God and we have Jesus. That's my standpoint. And we don't look at the people that are practicing it as sort of models or really anything. They're just like us. They're just going through the same experience as us, right? Your faith is a very individual thing. It's just between you and God. That's why I don't like some of the religious aspects of it. Now we have how many denominations, as I heard you say earlier, but there's
40,000.
Like one source of truth. And there's one source of truth that we go, like that's what we follow. And that's what I think if you are exploring, that is what you should do. Just read the Bible, look at the facts. You can explore all the other religions, all the other denominations. They contradict themselves, and once you have that contradiction, you can just say, hey, okay, this person says this person says that. What's the evidence? Who is right? Because they can't both be right if they're both.
How do you know what denomination is right?
Well, you look at the word, you look at history, you look at all the evidence that you have presented to you, and you have to make a rational choice as an individual.
But if
That's why I
if
wouldn't
I
push it
want
on anyone.
to
I say go look at it yourself.
if I want to at this point, if I decide that I want to get back involved in the church, and I decide I'm going to read the Bible and then do all this research on all the denominations, and I just choose the one that's best for me, what if I didn't choose the one that's going to get me into heaven? And I thought I
Not
did.
the one that's best for you. Best for you is definitely not what's best for God. We desire our worldly desires are far different from what God expects from us, right? So, again, in terms of your question, it's both. Yes, you can make the wrong decision even with the evidence that you look at, but your mind has to be open. And I think
actually,
the evidence is quite clear, if in that sense. That's why I'm a Christian.
I remembered what I was going to say before, actually, and I don't think it's taking us that far off of track, because the original question was like, what would it take for us to believe? And many times I also feel like when people are experiencing what they're describing as miracles and what they're describing as an act of God, they're really kind of like taking away from the human that did all of the work to create what that experience was. So for instance, like if someone is diagnosed with cancer and they go through rounds of chemotherapy and they weren't supposed to survive, but they do, and they end up living. They were given a lifespan of 3 months, and then they end up living 10 more years, and like that's not a miracle. That's years and years of science and research and money and time and energy and like all of this stuff that went into what that was, and it's amazing. But then you're taking away, when you're like, oh, it's a miracle of God, it takes away from the amazing feat of science and technology and information that created that, like in healthcare that created that. So I kind of am like, why, when things like that happen, I'm sort of like, well, why did God even give this person, if we're going to go with the God angle of it, why did they even get cancer to begin with? Why are there 25,000 people who die of lack of food and water every single day? Like what is that about? So I feel like if there is a God, there's a lot that he has to speak up for. And many times, as you heard, David, with the call before, we get the answer of, well, then there's also free will. And it's like, well, okay, but like for environmental circumstances, like if there's a drought and there is a scarcity of food, there's no free will that's involved in that. It just is. And so we can look at it in two ways. We can look at it like the earth is a planet, and sometimes things don't go in favor of human beings, and we have to like make up another solution. We have to ship out food to these people or whatever it is. The other, and that to me is like that's more peaceful to me than when I consider the other side of it, which is there's a God who decided that this was the plan and that he was in favor of a plan that would starve people out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you heard. I heard you say, or one of you say, that you get the same like talking points like free will all the time, and it's similar on our side as well. We get those talking points as well of why are children dying? Why do people not have water and food? And why is there struggle or evil in this world, right? And I am still going to go the free will path. Is that he gave us free will in order for there to be a perfect world, or not even that perfect world, but we sinned, and thus that sin has been like we were taken away from God, and that's.
Can I use an example that is currently happening right now? So right now, there are tens of thousands of people who are being murdered in Gaza, in Palestinian people who are being murdered. And what part of them dying because of a conflict that has nothing to do with them is an exercise of free will and not an atrocious thing that human beings are doing. Like, I can't accept that God exists when things like that happen and then suddenly we flip it on free will. Like, there are multiple genocides happening right now. And for God to be watching that and be all powerful and all knowing, and his two defenses are, oop, guess that was my plan, or oop, no, actually, this wasn't my plan. Like, does he have a plan or does he not have a plan? Because if he has a plan and we're supposed to believe in this like divine plan, then what is the purpose of free will? Free will is an illusion. And if we do truly have free will, then he doesn't have a plan for us.
I think I see free will differently. Free will in the sense that we can do whatever we want. I can do good with my free will, or I can do bad with my free will. But
I'm
like
saying when we have horrible,
that's not God.
When we have horrible things that are
doing.
happening, but if God exists and he is overseeing that tragedy, why, what are we supposed, what is the response there? What is the reason? Is this a plan for those people? Did he plan for little babies to starve because they are not given aid? Is he overseeing that plan? Because if he is, it's the same conversation that I had with Alex, which is, you have two jobs here. It's to not only prove to me that God exists, but also prove to me that if he does exist, that he's not a bad guy. Because right now, kind of not feeling good about this.
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier, that even if he exists, that he's a bad guy, essentially. But again, this is not part of God's plan. When God created the earth, or the world in Genesis, he created it and it was good. He created everything and it was good until we messed up and we separated ourselves from him and from the goodness. And so, because of his love for us, he still gives us this free will. And evil.
But if he has, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Love
sorry.
requires faith. You're good. There's also some lag. But by giving us free will, and by giving humans free will, it comes with the ability to be able to reject him as well, and also to hurt others. That's free will. And without free will, then it's not love, it's just programming of some sort, right? So when Adam sinned, God didn't leave us there. But in Romans 5, he says, just as sin entered through one man, salvation comes through one man. And that one man that salvation comes through, I'm sure you guess it's Jesus Christ. And so in order to save us, like God is love, and he's also just. So you can't, if he doesn't judge us for our sins and our iniquities, then he is not just. But because he is love, he gave us a way out by having his son die on the cross to pay the debt for our sins. The same way you can go pay bail for someone that's committed a crime.
David, hang on. I want to pause right here because I want to go back to something you said earlier before we get too far down this thought path.
Yeah, no problem.
If God created Adam and Eve and did so knowing that he was going to tempt them, he was going to test them, knowing that they would fail because he has a plan and he knows everything, that doesn't feel like love. That feels like manipulation. You set people up to fail. You put two people on Earth and then you said, okay, here we go, let the games begin. And then you set them up to fail. And then you made the rest of creation spend our entire lifetime begging for forgiveness. Like, that doesn't sound... Even if that's the truth, again, I'm not feeling good about this. I'm not feeling love from this. And as you know, the way that Christians use their faith to do atrocious things, to exclude communities, exclude is even like the light. I mean, that's nothing compared to they put their faith before the lives of people and the well-being of people over and over again. People fight over religion, and specifically over Christianity, and have been since the beginning of it. So I struggle to see where the Bible inspires love for people, because over and over again we see that's not the case. There are moments, of course, like there are people who are faithful, who are, charitable, and really try and like keep in mind the messages of Jesus and those people are wonderful. Why, if God's message is perfect and everything about the Bible is perfect, why did he put Adam and Eve on the earth with a plan where they were going to set them up to fail, and then have humanity continue to form and spend their entire lifetimes asking for forgiveness, begging for forgiveness, so we could get into a heaven that he created, like the Hunger Games, and we had to compete for it. And then even so, there are so many denominations of it that I don't know which version is the one that's right. And there are many denominations that are extremely hateful. So do you understand why this is like all I'm not getting a picture of a loving God.
Yes, and it's a difficult part for a lot of people, including Christians alike. For one, just on a sidebar, don't use this against me, but he says, lean not on your own understanding. There are so many things that we can understand, even here on earth. He says, if the earthly things you do not understand, how much more I don't know what the word he used, but like the spiritual stuff, if you can't even understand the earthly things, right? But again, Adam sinned, and that made the world imperfect. Sorry, my phone's dying. But so yeah, he didn't just leave us there. He still gave us an option to go through Christ. And evil is what humans do to each other. It has nothing to do with God.
But per his creation,
like the earth has enough food and water for everyone. It's humans that have made this condition. It's humans are the ones that are fighting the wars. It's humans that are doing all of this. It's not God.
What about? That's just not true, because what about people who, before more developed countries, they went through like famines and stuff because they didn't have rain or something? Was that their fault?
Again, imperfect world. I mean, like, if you look at our lives today, we are living like the people back in the day would not even be able to comprehend the kind of lives we're living right now, right? So it's not all black and white, and we're not going to have a perfect world. It's just not, because that's human's nature, not because of God, not because when he made the world, it was good and we screwed it up. But we still have the ability to do good. Jesus came down and he lived a perfect life. He gave us an example of what each and every one should strive for. If we all live like Jesus, do you think there's like all the issues that you're complaining about would exist for the most part?
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you asked, because I wanted to bring up a couple of things. There are things like natural disasters that, yes, I know things like climate change can contribute to, but there are some that would still happen and have happened before we were here. And what about the fact that things like the sun gives you cancer? Humans didn't create that, and that doesn't come from humans. Did God just sprinkle that in there as like an extra funsy, or what happened there? And also, why do animals suffer in nature? Why is there so much suffering in nature? Animals like eat each other alive. What is the point of that? That doesn't come from humans either.
I just keep coming back to the same thing, because it's we're in a post-fall world. We're in an imperfect world. When
But so he did
that
add
he
that stuff for fun.
created.
creation has
Yeah,
been
so he added it for
corrupted
fun.
and subjected to decay. Sorry?
But so he added that for fun. Taylor, I feel like I
No, that's
am
what
interrupting
happens
so
when
much.
we are separated from God. Not
Those-
because he
okay,
added
but
it
those
for
things
fun.
don't just like naturally happen. Like he created how nature works, did he not?
I'm sure there weren't hurricanes and all of that in the Garden of Eden.
Okay, I understand that. But after the fact, it's not like it happened naturally because he decided how to create nature. So he would have to decide, okay, now I'm going to make sure the the sun gives people cancer and natural disasters happen. Why would he, and animal suffering, why would he throw that in there? What sense does that make?
It's not him throwing it in there. I think that's fundamentally where we disagree.
Where else
It's
could it
that
come from?
When he
Where else
did
could it
create
come
it,
from?
it was good. It was from sin.
So
that
it's
fractured
just good?
his original design and separated us from God, and that's what happens. That's as far as I can explain for you. If you want to look deeper or other people's answers for that, go ahead.
Well,
but
so,
I think that's
David,
the core reason. Yeah.
I know you stumbled on this channel, but when people call into the show, the burden of proof is on you to make your case. So we're not going to go and research this ourselves, but where we're having a disconnect
if you want a different answer, I gave you my answer.
So where we're having a disconnect, though, is Taylor's example of the sun giving people cancer. Who else could be responsible for that? If you're telling me that God created everything, then God created a sun that gives his creations cancer, and he creates natural disasters that level parts of our environment, or like destroy the lives of people or kill them or whatever. What is the purpose of that? Because if the only thing that I can think of is that he is so vengeful because one person, actually I guess two people, took bites out of apples after they were explicitly tempted. They don't know what, because if you consider it this way too, Adam and Eve, if they were the first people, they don't know what manipulation or lying is. They're the first people to ever exist. So when the snake comes down and is like, no, you can eat the apple, it's totally fine. Why would they assume that is not true? Because at this point, lies are not a thing yet. They only know truth at this point. So why would they assume that the snake is not telling them the truth? Why would God put them in a situation to immediately test something that he allegedly designed? And then why are two people responsible for thousands of years of generations of people suffering from things like that are not related to free will at all, like getting cancer from the sun or falling victim to a natural disaster?
Yeah. Again, I'd say God, when he gave Adam and Eve a choice, still free will, and don't take my word for it, but I see that tree as a symbol of trust. And even when they failed, God didn't abandon them. He immediately promised redemption in Genesis.
He didn't abandon them, but he promised them a lifetime of tests over and over and over again. This is a person who has an ego that is unbelievable. Yes, it is tests, because we started this by saying that you only believe if you have an open heart. We're constantly being tested. When people are going through tragedies, these people are told, but you just have to believe, you have to pray, there's a miracle on the other side of it, but you have to pray, you have to go to church every Sunday, whatever. constantly being tested when we are getting smacked with evidence over and over again that if there was a God who was present, he doesn't care about us that much.
I wouldn't call those tests. I think we've just been brought into the brokenness of this world that
that he created.
He did not create the broken world. He created a good world, and we broke it.
No, he created the broken world because he created the world and then put his two little Sims in and immediately tested them, knowing that these are people who don't understand what a lie is. They don't understand dishonesty because they don't exist. They did not exist in a community where that would have ever been presented to them. That would be like if you told a toddler, I know that your mom said that you can't have candy, but she called me and she said it was fine, so I'm going to give you a little bit. The toddler would take the candy because they're toddlers and they don't know better. So if I'm supposed to assume that Adam and Eve are dropped onto the earth with no information about anything else, like they are fresh, smooth brains, and a snake tells them, you can have some of this apple, actually. Why would they assume that it was a lie? So he put people in an environment where they were set up to fail. So he did not create a perfect world. He created a world that looks really perfect, immediately drops people in knowing that they would fail, and then continue to blame humanity for eternity for the failures of creations that he created.
I think that's where we disagree. I think he created a perfect world, as he said, and we destroyed it. And Adam and Eve clearly knew what they were doing. They knew. He gave them clear commands not to do it, and they did. That's just like any other human could have done. That's the heart of sin. Not.
Why did he set up the temptation? Like, what's the point of setting them up? Like in that, because if you set someone in a specific scenario where they're going to fail, and there could be another scenario that you could bring them into where they wouldn't fail, how did they really have a choice in the end? Because God knew based on this situation they would either fail or not, right?
I would say it's again, I wouldn't say it's a test per se. He gave them a clear command, and it's again free will. They know they didn't need to do it, and it's whether they wanted to trust God or not. They chose to trust the serpent, the creator.
Here's the thing too, David. This was a test when they didn't know that they were being tested. That's the other thing too. They were not told that they were going to be tested. Is that not incredibly manipulative? And then we also in the
test. It was a clear command.
No, it wasn't. It was a so if it was not a test, then it was a situation where God said, "Hey, don't eat these apples." And then two people in the Bible, it says that they didn't know that they were naked until they ate the fruit. So they were totally innocent of right and wrong. They do not understand right and wrong. It says that in the Bible. They have no concept of right or wrong until after they eat the fruit. So if God is telling them, hey, don't eat the fruit, and then a serpent comes down and says, hey, actually, you can eat the fruit, they have no concept of right or wrong based on the words in the Bible. So then God used that as an example or as the reason why we all have to suffer for the rest of eternity when he set these two people up to fail, did not give them an explanation of what right or wrong is until after they ate the fruit. Do you understand how deceptive that is? That doesn't sound like love to me. That sounds like manipulation. That sounds like ego.
For one, I cannot speak for God. I don't know why he did that. That's out of my purview. I don't see it as a test. I think they did have moral context they knew because God gave them
They
a
did
command.
not. They did
and
not. In
command-
the Bible,
command.
in the Bible, it says they did not know. In the Bible, it says they did not know.
They didn't know what.
They do not know the difference between right and wrong. They don't know the difference between good and evil at that point until after they take a bite from the fruit. So they did not know what they were doing.
They didn't know evil experientially until they disobeyed, but they still had the capacity
No,
to choose
they did not know.
trust or
They did not.
rebellion.
In the Bible, it says that they did not know. So
No, it doesn't
God
say
created
they did not
a
know.
little.
There's no point that it
Yes,
says that they did not know. It says they ate the fruit of knowledge, that the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It doesn't mean that they didn't understand anything beforehand. Otherwise, why would
wait.
God give them that command?
Taylor, you're muted.
Why would they need that knowledge if they already had it? Why would that be a tempting thing if they already had it? And that also wouldn't
They didn't
that
understand it experientially. Like
So the
they
fruit
never
is
once understood.
the fruit is it's the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. So they did not know good and evil before they had the fruit. That's the point. And if they did not have it experientially, and they did not have it because they were not given in their conscience the knowledge of fruit and evil, and they did not have it experientially, per your example, they did not know. So they did not know. They were set up, and then we all have to suffer for thousands of years until eternity with the threat of going to hell if we don't obey. That's crazy.
I think they knew. I don't have a Bible near me. I would have looked stuff up, and I think that's where we can disagree, right? I think they knew, and you can say they didn't, and I think I can't really speak for God, especially at the beginning. All we have is the word, and that's all we have to go by, right? So that's
exactly. So why didn't he make it more clear? Because
I don't know.
There's a lot
I don't
of
even know who wrote it.
Okay. I think, David, we're at an impasse for now. And I would love if you were to go back to that story in the Bible. And even if, I don't know, you don't have to listen back to this call if you don't want to, but it might be interesting to revisit this conversation. So I appreciate the honest conversation, and you can call back anytime. I want to see if we can get to one more call before it gets too late.
Yeah, no problem. Just one question before I leave. Do you believe any of the miracles actually happened? I know you mentioned something about sickness and cancer leaving with science. Like, you believe it's scientific rather than miraculous, but do you believe that miracles happen, especially based off of other people's experiences, that could not be explained scientifically?
No.
What if you're given proof that, like, okay, this person, I don't know, snapped their leg or they were blind for all their life and now they could see, and after someone prayed over them, what if you saw that, like, with your own eyes? Then
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen
Then
that,
what?
so I would have to see it. We would have to see it with our own eyes, and then I would ask again. Then we would be circling back to, okay, even if this God is real, you have to prove to me that he's a good person, because why did that person who was blind can now see, but there are kids who get cancer when they're babies and die from it? Why is that the person who gets to be saved?
What if it's just beyond your understanding, that, like, because what if, even with all the bad things that happen, if you add a little bit of context, you can add a little bit of context that could completely view the exact same situation, the exact same horrible situation in a different way. So what if,
yeah, but
like,
David, I'm not looking for an answer that makes hard situations easier. I'm looking for an answer that is the truth. So I understand why
I mean, yeah, what if that is the truth?
people believe, because I understand why people believe, because there are answers to things that we don't have answers for. Like why would children have to get cancer? I understand why people believe, because in their mind they're thinking, well, they're going to go to a bed, but whatever. I understand that. I'm looking for what is true, and I don't feel like anything that I have seen demonstrates that this is true.
But it seems that it doesn't really matter whether it's true or not. You just don't want
It
to,
does.
because even if it is true, he will be bad in your eyes.
Okay, but it still matters. If you're telling me that you have proof of a God, it matters whether we have that proof or not. And then you're not trying to convince me to be a Christian. You're trying to convince me that this God exists at a base
I think it's the best
level
evidence
exists.
out there. That's both scientifically and spiritually or historically, whichever way you want to see it. That's why I believe, regardless, and that's what I just hope for you as well, to just seek the information yourself and to be open to it. But if no matter what evidence is brought to you, no matter what you see, no matter what happens to you, no matter what you observe, you still wouldn't trust in Jesus
we didn't say that.
in God. Because, I mean, you said it doesn't matter because he would be still bad, right? You
Yeah,
did say
but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't believe that if we had proof that he existed, then I can get on board with him existing. But that doesn't mean that I need to be a follower. So
regardless, you wouldn't be a follower. That's what I mean. Like, even if he existed or not.
Those are just
whether
two
you
separate
knew
points.
those are two separate things.
That I'm just a little bit confused on the last question I'm getting off. Then what's the point of the show if you're not even open to? You just want to know if God exists? Is that the point?
No, this show and all of the shows on this channel allow for open conversation, so we can have conversations like this, David, and it's helpful for people who are deconstructing, people who are questioning, to see these conversations be played out. It's also just interesting, so people like to see it. On this show, we talk about all different kinds of things. Sometimes we talk about purity culture. Sometimes I'm a sex and relationship coach, so some people will call me about things like that. So the purpose is entertainment and fun, and also to have real conversations so we can dig into these things like where you and I disagree.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's a good conversation. Have a good day.
Thanks, David. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, David.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have time for one more, or are you feeling depleted?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good. I'm sad that I look like Twilight again. But I have I'm not gonna lie, I have a rage in me right now because it never works. Like, nothing ever works. And I feel the rage building because I'm like, I know you got, I'm like, they think I'm incompetent. I need the, like, I am going on Amazon and finding the brightest ring light that is on the market. I'm so mad. It's going. Next time you see me, I'm going to look like God. You're gonna believe in God because I'm gonna be so bright. Mark my words.
Hallelujah. I love it. Oh my God.
Listen, I know I've promised it before, but I did not know one of my lights would go out. So rip.
Oh my God. I'm dying.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad. It's okay. I'll calm down. I'll chill.
I'm loving how, like, we had this very long call with this person where it's just like hitting a wall every time, and you're like, I'm actually raging because my light is still.
And I feel bad because, like, I feel my rage also forming towards them, but I'm also like, this is not about. It's about the ring light. But
honestly,
okay.
I love that you're just like an unbothered queen when it comes to the callers. You're like, my light's actually not working, so I could give a shit.
I'm actually so mad about that. Yeah. It's okay though. Yeah, I'm ready for another caller though.
Okay, let's do one last call and then we are going to get to super chats. So we're going to pull in Sam. Hi, Sam.
Yo, hello.
How's it going?
Hi.
Pretty good, pretty good. I see you guys get a lot of like the same calls, like the evidence of the Bible. So I was hoping I could change it and like maybe attack your worldview, maybe.
Attack.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So you're both atheists, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're both naturalists.
I don't actually know what a naturalist. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Yeah. Me neither.
I'm not
as
great
in,
with like labels of things.
As in, like, there's only material causes, right? There's no immaterial.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you account for immaterial things like thoughts, for example?
Our brains.
Yeah, our brain.
Right, your brain is what processes that information, right? But the actual subjective meaning of a thought, how do you account for that? That's an immaterial thing.
But I don't think it
You're
is.
I don't think it is. Our thoughts are based off of our experiences and things that we hear and see and are experiencing in real life, and then our brain has a memory, and so we're able to have thoughts.
Right. Like the neurons firing and everything, that explains how it's carried. But like they don't explain why anything should feel like something. Right? Like you can't describe, for example, like think of a peanut, right? Like you think of a peanut, but you're consciously thinking of it. Like the neurons are firing, and there's a part that lights up in your brain, but there's no it's a hard problem with consciousness, right?
Well,
I
but
don't know if you
Sam,
guys-
so if I tell you to think about the Italian pink gugoots, and it's a fruit, and but I'm not going to give you any more information, and I want you to think about what that looks like. We're not going to come up with the same picture, and you're not going to be able to think of what it is. Like, thoughts are based on referencing what we have seen in real life and experienced in real life.
Right, I get that. Like our brains would process the info, right, and it would send the signals and everything to come up with that fruit in our head, right? But it's not just that, right? Like it's the conscious thought of it. Like, for example, like let me give you a better example, right? So you see something that's dangerous, right? You feel afraid and you react to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So like, why do you feel actually afraid, right? It's not
because
just
you
like
have cortisol. You have
evolution.
cortisol. Yeah, we've evolved to understand harm and
That's
fear,
literally-
and so yeah, that's what our bodies
That's
and
literally
brains are meant to do.
beneficial. Yeah, it helps us survive. It's like part of the evolution process. That's why we have that.
right, but that doesn't explain like the conscious thought of it. It's so hard to explain, right? So like, why do you have that inner experience, right? Like of being you, of being scared. Like yes, the cortisol releases that, and then whatever, the neurons fire. But why do you feel the actual thought of being scared? Like the inner part of being scared.
Your brain could be doing any number of things, but it's trying to protect you. Yeah, we have a developed frontal lobe, so we can do this. And also, you have the physiological evidence of experiencing fear. Like maybe your hands are sweating, maybe your heart is beating faster, all this kind of stuff. These are all evolutionary responses. So I think the thought argument is interesting because it seems like the answer is it's based on experience. We want to survive. So we are experiencing fear based on other information that we've consumed. It's like you have to teach kids not to trust strangers because they don't inherently know not to trust strangers. But once you teach them, they know that. And then moving forward, they've learned that information. And as time goes, we all learn more.
Right. So you said two things, right? The first thing, like about protection, like your brain is protecting you, and that's why it releases that. But do you think that protection requires a feeling? Like, for example, does a robot, if you program it, does it and like to get away from danger, does it require a feeling?
No, it doesn't.
A signal.
But just
yeah.
Right.
Like maybe
right.
it
So
could
why
like
does
learn
that process
patterns.
alone?
Because
right, so why does that process come with a conscious
programmed.
experience?
Because someone had to program. This is a situation that will cause me harm, and so I should leave. We don't have to do that because we have evolved and we're humans and not robots, and so we are like same way that it happens with animals. They have learned through evolution and through learning over time how to survive, how to self-preserve. Robots don't do that because they have learned. They do that because we programmed them that way.
Right. For example, would you say that bacteria has feelings?
I don't think so.
I don't.
No, right? So why does bacteria swim away from acid? That's the question. I understand that it's an evolutionary trait. I agree with you. I'm saying, why does it require? Why do humans have this consciousness about it? Like, why do they have the awareness?
I feel like I still don't fully understand the question. Like, something doesn't have to be sentient to react to something.
Right.
So
are you
awareness. Just like talking about like
why do we have awareness?
At the end of the day, are you just kind of talking about like where does like sentience in general come from? Is this what you're saying?
Not necessarily, because squirrels and stuff like that are sentient, right? But I'm saying, why do humans have this particular way of consciousness, the subjective experience that we have that doesn't correlate to neurons or any of that? Like, we have an inner experience.
Yeah, so
that's caused by the brain.
Yeah, that's caused by the brain, and it's also, and other animals have inner experiences. So, and I also am failing to understand why this has anything to do. I mean, we can kind of, I don't know. I feel like we've studied that. We know when dogs feel fear, when they feel happy. Yeah, like they have general baseline emotions. But I also am confused as to how we go from we don't have the answer, therefore God, because I think that
no,
or therefore
it has nothing to do with God, right? It's more attacking the fact that there is things that are immaterial and that materialism can't account for, and I think that atheism implies naturalism.
But emotions aren't immaterial. Like, it's due to our brains. I'm confused.
Right.
It sounds like you think emotions are different and don't come from, like, our brains. I'm just confused.
Right. You said, for example, dogs have emotions, right? But the fact that you say that dogs have emotions, it doesn't explain the feelings, right? It just assumes the feelings. So even if it's a dog or a human, right? Like, it's both based on like a chemical or a neuron reaction. So, like, why do these chemicals cause a feeling? Why isn't it just
because because they're like they're beneficial. Like, I have prey animals for pets, and they're constantly afraid. It's because that fear has been helpful to them during their evolution to keep their species alive. So I know we keep kind of repeating the same thing, but I'm just confused about.
You're saying it's
like
beneficial, right?
Why emotion would be immaterial? I don't understand that.
Why it would be immaterial?
Yeah.
Well, that's the question, right? So if something is not material, what is it?
No, I'm sorry.
Right?
It's not immaterial. Sorry, I don't know what I said, but I meant like emotions are connected to our brain, so like we know where they come from.
Correct.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Your brain transports and processes that information. I agree with you 100%. But the fact is that we don't know why it's required to have a feeling. And then you said beneficial, and just because something is useful, it doesn't.
But why do things have to be required for them to just happen.
No, because that's how you're explaining. Because the difference is, if you're assuming something, it's required, right? Like, I assume that you're a human, you're required to have a brain. Same thing with consciousness, right? Like, for example, a robot, it can be useful in many things. It doesn't mean that it's aware or conscious.
Right.
You're assuming the material. I'm sorry if it's confusing, but I'm like trying to make it simple.
I'm still not really understanding because I'm not on board with the thought process of just because feelings and emotions are not like tangible and you can't, hold them in your hand or look at them with your eyes, that means that there is anything supernatural. Okay.
Oh my god, I did not realize that's just like the entire thing.
No.
But the thing is, we know that
because you can't hold gravity, right? But that's a material thing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody believes that there's only things you can see. I'm so confused by this. Like,
that's not
because
See, for something to be material, it doesn't mean you have to, see. Like, for you to be able to see something, it has to have a size, shape, and like a weight to it. Okay, would you agree with that?
You're talking about a physical thing.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of concepts and like ways of understanding the world that doesn't involve a physical thing. I don't know how else to.
Oh, so you do account for immaterial things.
No, okay. Hold on a second. Two things. Everything that we
I don't think we
see,
have the same definitions.
Everything we see is what our brain is processing as being what we're. Like, every image that I'm seeing right now is my brain rapidly processing like light being refracted, right? Like that's what sight is. I'm processing everything through my brain right now. Like if the part of my brain that processes sight wasn't working, I would not be able to see. So everything is happening in our brain. All of it. Like that's why there are theories about like literally nothing being real and like solipsism. So like I don't believe that that's true, but that is like a thought process that happens. So like what do you mean by immaterial? Like what is that mean to you?
For something to be a physical thing, it has to have weight, size, and shape. And some would even argue a color, right? So for example, an atom has a shape, so it is a material thing. Everything that we have, physically I can pick up, has a weight and a shape. Like even gravity, everything, right? We would agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we can agree that there's immaterial things. But
you can agree
I feel
with
like
that?
your definition. Yeah, but this whole time I thought your definition of immaterial was like we don't know. I don't know. Like it's just some kind of unexplained thing.
No. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm saying that so you're saying there are immaterial things. So you're not a natural.
Yep. Okay, I guess not. I never really said it.
Right, and
I didn't know what it really was.
The reason. Right, so I'm saying that atheism itself implies naturalism because you reject supernatural causes, correct?
Yes, but no, that's not the logical conclusion.
Thoughts are not supernatural. Thoughts are not supernatural.
How do you know that?
It is because we can measure neurotransmitters and synapses moving around in our brain.
Okay, but those are material things, correct? The synapses and the neurons firing, are those not material?
Yes.
Okay, but you just earlier claimed that there are immaterial things, so that wouldn't work.
Okay, well then I changed my mind. There are not immaterial things, and thoughts.
Okay, so now we go back to square one.
Right. Thoughts are a process that you're like, as we said from the beginning, thoughts are things zapping around in your brain and creating images in your mind based on things that you have seen, experienced, felt, whatever. that's not an example. Also, if everyone's thoughts are supernatural, then does that mean that we are all like psychics? Like, what? I'm confused.
I'm not saying that our thoughts are supernatural. I'm saying that our thoughts are immaterial, right? Does your thought have? Okay, I'm not saying the weight. I'm not saying the neuron, right, or the electrons firing in your brain or whatever it may be. I'm saying that do the actual thoughts, the meaning behind the thoughts, the meaning, right? So so I'm looking at my phone. The thought of me looking at an object, right? It's firing at my phone, but the meaning behind it, the unit, the language I use, that has a meaning behind it. Does that have a material weight, size, shape, or color?
No, but that's not evidence of supernatural. Like, that's not an evidence of anything supernatural. Just because something doesn't have a weight
look.
and it doesn't have physicality does not mean that there are things that are supernatural.
I agree with you. I'm not claiming that the thoughts themselves are supernatural. First, we need to get to the point, again, that there are things that are immaterial, and then I will argue for why there are some supernatural immaterial things. But first, there needs to be a basis of, is there immaterial or is there material things?
Okay, so
there are.
Let's
there are immaterial things.
Take me down. Take us down the thought process of let's go down the path of yes, there are immaterial things. I don't feel totally convinced, only because I don't feel like I'm totally understanding, but I want to hear the rest of your explanation, please.
Right. So an immaterial thing would be something that doesn't have mass, right? So in order for you to be an atheist, you need to be a naturalist. It's the simplest explanation, right? It implies naturalism. So in and of itself, atheism would not work. And in order for there to be immaterial, there needs to be a mind. There needs to be a God, right?
So wait,
so that's
you're
where the precept comes in.
Hold on. I want to just clarify something. So I, as an atheist, I don't believe that God exists. You're telling me that because our human thoughts are, if our human thoughts are immaterial and they don't have physicality to them, that means that God exists?
No. Okay, let me put it to you this way, right? For something to be
Can I
supernatural,
say something really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I felt like your definition of naturalism did not sound right, because I'm like, there's no way that many people think like that, and I was correct. Naturalists still believe in concepts like morality, law, money, stuff that we, like, the concepts that humans create.
I'm not claiming that morality is an immaterial thing. Morality is just a...
it isn't.
It's not an object. No, not necessarily. It's not the same. The meaning behind morality could be, but for the whole, like, if there is God, for something for something to be supernatural, there would have to be a natural, right? So if there is something that we cannot see and it is not a natural thing, but for something to be natural, right?
You said something to be supernatural would have to have something natural.
So where would it come from then? Because if something is, because the super,
I have no idea.
Right. So if something is natural, it means you granted me that there is an immaterial thing, correct?
For the purpose of hearing the rest of your
Okay. So if there is something that is immaterial, it means it is beyond material. It is not material. So super would be beyond the material universe. Something that is not bound by space and time.
So, okay, but my thoughts are bound by space and time because they only happen in my brain. So they are bound by space and time because I am a human, and so they only exist for as long as I exist. And also for as long as I am thinking the thought.
Yes, but look, the thought, again, we're going back to, like, if a thought is an immaterial or material thing.
Like the thought.
Yes,
okay,
actually,
okay, wait, Sam. I think I'm understanding the immaterial material thing because I think I'm having a rebuttal for you at this time.
Okay.
I think that thoughts are not immaterial because they are bound by time and by space because they only exist for as long as I want to think them. They don't leave my brain and no one else is aware of them. So they are bound by space because they are not available to be floating around for everyone to experience. They only happen in my brain because of the chemical and whatever things are happening in my brain, physical things that are happening in my brain to create that thought. If it were immaterial, then I could assume that it could just be experienced by everyone. It's not bound by time or space, and for as long as it needs to, the thought can exist. That's not true because the thought only exists in my brain for the period of time that I'm thinking about it and for the duration of my body also existing. Even if I thought that thought every single second of my day, from the beginning of my life to the end of my life, when my life ends, that thought will cease to exist. And unless I expressed it, which would also be something like physical, then no one would even know that I even had that thought.
Yeah, so I would say that's almost a category error. Just because something exists temporarily, I don't think that makes it material. Like, just because something is bound by time, that doesn't automatically make it material. Like, there's plenty of things that are bound by time.
Taylor, you're muted.
I thought that was a definition. I thought that was just a definition you just gave. No.
Okay. That's what supernatural would be. An immaterial thing, right? It's correlated to a supernatural. But for example, like an event, like that's bound by time, but that doesn't make it material. The definition of a material would be it has size, shape, weight, and possibly color, not necessarily its time.
So if something doesn't have size, okay, wait, actually, I still feel like no, because if we're doing this based on size, weight, shape, and color, thoughts are, I'm going to use exactly how Hannah Hodgin said this in the chat. Thoughts are a physical process arising in the brain. It's not a non-physical immaterial. It is a physical process that is happening based on neurons, which are physical things that have either weight, size, whatever those physical definitions are that you used. It's the result of those things happening.
Correct. Let me ask you a question. Do you think correlation equals identity?
I don't know what that means.
Like, let me give you an example, right? So, like, you flip a switch, right? And then the light bulb lights up, right? Does that mean that the light is the switch? No, right?
No.
So same thing with the brain, right? So
your
brain lights up on
No, but wait, hold on. No, but the light turned on because there are wires that are connected to the light. It's not magic, it's connected to the light.
I agree with you.
And then electricity
is...
Okay, so this, in the same way, in our brain, electricity fires off in our brain and creates the thought. It is actually exactly like flipping a switch.
I agree with you. I think that the brain is required for the meaning to come about. But just because something is required, right, doesn't mean that the thing that comes from it is the same thing as the light. For example, the light bulb, right? The switch is required for the light bulb, but it still doesn't make the light bulb a switch, right? Like a piano, right? A piano is required to play music, but music is not the piano.
A piano is also not required to play all kinds of music, and also, why does it have to go both ways?
What do you mean? Why does it have to go both ways?
Why does music have to be the instrument, and instrument is also the, like, you're doing a correlation does not imply causation. Just because they're correlated does not mean that. Okay, so okay. This is.
Let me put it to you this way, right? If you damage the brain, right, the thought is affected. Same as way as if you break a piano, you ruin the music. But that doesn't mean that the music is wood and strings, right? Would you agree? Same way that if you damage the brain, it doesn't make the fact that the thought is the brain. The thought is affected, but it's not the brain.
How does any of this equal, like, proving supernatural? Did you say that yet?
Again, so if you grant me that there's immaterial things, I can get into that.
Yep. Sure. I want to know what the argument is.
You do grant me that?
Sure, yeah.
Right. Okay. So we can go off the first thing, right? We can grant that there are immaterial things that are real, okay? They have no physical shape and size, okay? And then you as an atheist would claim that there is only natural things. Now, you could make the argument that there's Buddhists and all that, but that we both agree that Buddhists are wrong. So the fact is, that if materialism... Okay, sure. If you don't agree, that's fine. But I'm saying if materialism is false, the door opens to the supernatural, right? So if logic is real and morality is objective and consciousness is not just neurons, then there is this part of reality that is non-physical. And that is what's considered the supernatural because it is beyond the natural.
Okay, but
even if it's not angels and miracles. Mm-hmm.
So why does it matter to you that you prove? I don't agree that things are supernatural. I think that we can find, like, music is sound waves. It is time and space are that.
Is the meaning behind the sound waves mean anything? Are they material?
The meaning behind the sound waves are the result of how our brain processes sound waves and the emotion that it wants to correlate to it. So I think that there is still reason. There is still reason behind all of this. And even if we were to continue with all of this, which I think we're going to wrap up for time, and also because our viewership is rapidly dropping as we're trying to get through this call, but even if we were to continue with this, things like your definition of supernatural, I don't think has anything to do with, like, just because your definition of supernatural exists in your brain for you, Sant, like your version of it, does not mean that angels and gods and ghosts and whatever.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that that proves angels or miracles or any of that. I'm saying it's a non-material dimension of reality, which atheists would not agree to.
Atheists just don't believe that there is a god or supernatural thing that is overseeing us.
Okay, well, Buddhists believe in the supernatural stuff, right? But I'm saying my argument is that atheism does imply naturalism. And if there is immaterial things, there needs to be a universal and abstract thing that's not made of matter and is not created by humans. And almost all theists would point that to God.
So, an atheist, the definition of atheism is a person who does not believe in the existence of any gods, and it centers on the absence of belief in deities rather than a specific assertion that no gods exist. So I don't really think that your immaterial things debunks atheism in any way, even if we do believe that, and I don't at this time.
I'm not trying to debunk atheism. I'm saying that atheism, right? It rejects the immaterial. And in order for there to be immaterial, I'm saying there needs to be God. So if there is no God, which atheists reject, they would reject reality.
Yeah, but and you know what? I don't believe that there are immaterial things. I think that everything that you have described, music, thoughts, they are all the result of physical things that are happening. Music is sound waves. Thoughts are...
Yeah, I agree that it's sound waves, but the meaning...
The meaning is something that we assign to it. We assign the meaning to it based on our experiences, based on...
I agree with you.
Okay, so then what are you talking about?
Well, I agree that we have assigned these meanings to them, but why? Why have we assigned these meanings? It goes back to the question again.
based on previous
Survival instinct?
experiences. Based on previous
Okay, a baby,
experiences,
for
based on
example, a baby that's 2 months old. Why does it cry for food? Why does it cry for
Evolution.
when there's danger?
Evolution.
Why does it cry when there's
Evolution.
fire? Evolution. Correct. Okay, correct. I agree with you. So what is the meaning, right? What is the meaning behind the actual, like, when the baby is scared, right? It's just cortisol, you said. And then we came up to the conclusion that the fear itself has a meaning. It's not just like, okay, bad thing, run away, right? It's bad thing, this is going to happen. Why can we imagine the bad thing is going to happen? Can a squirrel imagine things?
Wait, okay, so here's the thing. We have evolved. Evolution is an amazing thing, and we have learned
I agree
that
with you.
if we cry, we get attention. If you're telling me that we have a supernatural ability to understand that crying when I'm like, if you're telling me that it is supernatural in some way to know as an infant that crying means that I will get fed, then I would ask you the question, when an infant cries, a mother still has to figure out why they're crying. So an infant has not figured out how to directly communicate how to get specifically food, for example. And if there was the ability to have a supernatural communication, then why would that have not happened? Why would we not have figured that out? If all of this is supernatural.
Let me put it to you this way, right? The baby is hungry, right? It cries from hunger. Okay? The body reacts, we agree on that. The baby makes a sound, I agree on that. And then the caregiver, like the mother, for example, would respond to that. That's all physical. But the problem I'm pointing to you is, does the baby just react, or does it actually feel hunger? Because you can't explain that experience of discomfort. Huh? It feels hunger.
You can explain the feeling of hunger. You absolutely can.
So I'm going to ask you this then. Why does it feel like something to be hungry? Why isn't the baby just a reflex machine?
Wait. Why does it feel like something? You're saying emotionally, why does it feel like something to be hungry?
Yeah, why isn't the baby just a reflex machine? It's body.
Okay, so here's the thing. It is a reflex machine. Here's the thing. Babies learn after repeated actions that and them processing in their brain, they are able to understand, if I am repeatedly hungry and I'm crying for my mom and they do not come, then my thought process is, okay, then that means that this person is not a reliable source of food. I'm not telling you that baby has then made the association of, this mom doesn't care about me. All they have done is, because they are machines and hunger is a reflex, what they have found is that if they cry when they are hungry and their mom comes to bring them food, then that action created the result that they wanted it to. If the action did not create the result that it wanted it to, it wouldn't keep doing it. We are learning machines.
No.
We learn.
Right. So if that's the case, if the baby is a reflex machine, then so are you and me, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
To some degree, yes, but we are also learning machines. So while there are things that we do and say and feel that are reflexes, we also are capable, because we have brains and frontal lobes, we are capable of having critical thoughts. We are able to look at the situation that we're experiencing and say, you know what? Previously, when I have experienced this, and this happened. So I might feel this, and this way. However, this is a new person. So maybe I give them the benefit of the doubt and we see what this other, because we have a frontal lobe.
I agree, but a learning machine still isn't conscious, though. Like, AI can learn. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that it's conscious. And you said that
just because one learning machine is another we are a combination of learning machines and reflex machines and a million other things.
So
just because Just because human beings are complex, it does not mean therefore God. Like, I'm confused as to how you're getting there.
No. See, I feel like you're strawmanning my argument a little bit. I have not mentioned God once, right? Mentioned that there is a God because of this.
Yes, you have.
I'm claiming. Okay, I've mentioned that there is a correlation to atheism and no God, but I've never claimed that just because there is a supernatural, there must now be angels and miracles. I'm saying that there is a supernatural. But back to the point, right? If we're learning machines and reflex machines, that would mean that all of your beliefs, all of your desires, the love you have for your family, all of that is just, you're just a piece of meat reacting.
Yes.
It's self-defeating.
You are a piece of meat reacting. And you want to know the example?
If you're just reflexes. Do you want me to give you the example for this?
Wait, I'm going to give you the example for this. Because if I grew up without my dad, and I passed him, and I had no idea who he was, and I passed him in the street, I would have no allegiance to that man because I don't know him. I learned through my experience knowing that my dad is a caregiver to me. I know from my experience of him being able to feed me, being able to counsel me. That is why bonds grow. Not everybody has a good relationship with their family for the sake of them being their family. So that it's not a supernatural thing. It is a learned thing that we have these bonds with our family.
Let me ask you this. You said that you said that you wouldn't know your dad. So if learning through experience, you're still assuming a self. Okay, so when you grew up with your dad, who had the experience?
We all had our individual experiences.
I agree. Who interpreted the caregiving as a fatherly experience? Who compared those memories and formed a belief?
I did not create.
You did.
Okay, so if I understand that someone feeding me and someone giving me housing and counseling me, whatever, means that this is a person that is safe for me to be around. This is a person that I can rely on. And then my societal construct has me understand what a father figure is. And in the society that we live in now, you respect your father, you take, certain advice from them, whatever. Why does that indicate that there is anything supernatural about that? That sounds completely cause and effect to me. That sounds like that's not supernatural. That is a learned thing. I learned that.
Yeah. So the thing is, you're borrowing from the supernatural worldview without even realizing it, right? So again,
what are you talking about?
I don't think this is gonna go anywhere. I think we need to go.
Okay.
I don't think
sure. I mean, it was nice talking to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Sam.
I appreciate the conversation.
Bye.
All right.
That was crazy. What a crazy last call. I had no. Morgan has been messaging in our chat, and he's like, "Please, I'm begging you, no more." That was
I'm officially like a former husk of myself, dude. I was thinking I couldn't stop laughing because I was still filled with so much rage from the
light
that I was like, okay, I can either go crazy and crash out, or I can just start laughing, and that's what I did. So
yeah,
I felt bad. I couldn't stop laughing, but I'm like, this does not make sense, and it made me feel like I was stupid.
I think genuinely, like, I think that he's trying to, he really was grasping at straws. It's like there are actual answers for this. Like, there are answers for all of it. The things that are learned, the things that are physiological, there are answers, and he just didn't want to hear them.
Yeah, and he also genuinely didn't understand the concept of, naturalism. Like, he just genuinely didn't. It wasn't just about, material thing. His definitions just don't make sense to me. So that's why, obviously material and immaterial or whatever, but it felt like he kept tweaking it. And so there was no way.
Yeah. That was crazy. Okay, let's do super chats. Oh my jeez. Okay. $5 from Melatonin Ale. Durante Lamar's affirmation on his video with Forrest was really good. First 8 minutes of the video. Okay, do you remember what day it was? Ale, if you remember which call it was, put it.
It's on Durante's channel.
Okay. Oh, he has a video affirmation on his on Durante's channel. Okay. Thank you, Morgan, and thank you, Ale.
$10 from Sal Willis. I've tried positive affirmations a few times, but it only felt fake to me. Do either of you have an idea of how long it might take to get over that hump? Thanks to everyone at the line.
So I think part of it is to make affirmations yourself based on who you are in evidence, in practice. Like, I can say that I am courageous because I moved to Los Angeles with no friends and pretty much no money. I went on a TV show that was filmed in England with no one, like no real, like I didn't have anyone come with me. Obviously, I did that completely by myself. So things like that, where I'm like, I know that I am courageous by evidence because I've seen myself be courageous over and over again. And so then there's no part of it that feels fake to me because these are affirmations based on who I've proved to myself I already am. So that's what my tip would be. When you make your word bank of all of the things that you're going to make your like I am statements from, make them things that you have proved to yourself. Even if you've proved them to yourself one single time, it's not fake because you did prove to yourself that you are courageous, that you are creative, that you are whatever it is. And then it doesn't feel that fake because you have experience to lean on. You're not claiming without evidence. You are claiming with evidence, which we love to do on this channel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. $5 from Mystic Minds. I don't know if it's me again. I think I just read. Oh well, Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. In a world built on hatred, why can't I read? Kindness becomes revolutionary. Reject social hierarchies. Welcome diversity.
Period. Agreed. Thank you, Mystic Mind. $10 from Ash Glitch. My go-to when I was a kid was, can he make a full steak dinner appear in front of me right now? And if that did happen, then I'd believe. That's awesome.
You were very based for that, Ash.
That's awesome.
$10 from Jamin Busak. The Bible is the claim, not the evidence. How do we get theists to understand this? I don't think we do, but
Promise had a really funny meme that she made that was like, it was like a power strip that was plugged into itself. And it was like when theists use the Bible as evidence of God. And I was like, that's exactly what it feels like. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, that's a perfect demonstration.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Maybe we should just start showing them a power cord.
I thought about that while we were in that call. I was like, I wish I had one nearby. Maybe I'll just start doing that. Maybe we need, you know what? That's what we've been missing from this whole experience. Props.
I got some. I will have my extension cord on deck.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Okay. $5 from Bobby Keniston. I've never heard anyone say they had a sexual relationship with God. Does this mean speaking in tongues isn't the big man's best tongue trick?
Oh my God.
That's amazing, Bobby. That's crazy. I love it.
$5 from Sonic Shroom. $5 from Sonic Shroom. God did not provide enough food. We have had to invest in the harbor. Is it Bosch? I don't know what that word is. Process in order to feed half of the population. Yeah, when they said we have enough food, I did not understand that at all. But we definitely don't. Like, there was definitely famine, and people have starved and are starving right now.
Yeah. And also, we had to learn, I mean, I don't know what the whatever Bosch thing is, but we had to learn to, like, grow food and how to make agriculture work for us. So that's not a God thing. That's a human thing that we figured out.
And I also want to correct myself because I feel like the whole world could be fed, but I'm kind of saying before we developed, certain places didn't have food.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
10 Canadian dollars from Quantum Chaos. My friend was a victim of the Catholics, if you know what I mean, that turned her against God. She's going to hell while the priest who did it isn't, because he said sorry to God. Make it make sense. So true. We don't talk about that enough. That like you could just be a horrible, terrible person, but if in the last moments of your life you decide that you're a believer and you go to confession, apparently your slate is wiped clean. So then what is the motivation for being a good person?
There isn't one.
Right. Right. Thank you, Quantum Chaos.
$5 from President Starscream. Plot twist: the serpent wanted Adam and Eve to have the knowledge of good and evil so they could know that God is evil. I've heard people say that before. That's a good theory.
Yeah. I kind of like loved that Adam and Eve conversation because I haven't gotten to have it yet. So it was like kind of satisfying to like duke it out. And actually, for as much as we had some like very spirited conversations, everyone was very respectful today, which is nice.
No, they definitely were.
I can't respect beliefs like this. I hate when they are just like, just respect the beliefs. No, fuck no. I will not respect a monster. Also, I can't tell, but I think, this is Hannah Hodgins. Is your picture, it kind of looks like my friend Tara, and I can't tell if it is, but if it is, let me know, because that would be so cutie and funny. Okay, continue.
$5 for Monkey at Typewriter. Maybe we live short, bright bursts of chaos in an indifferent universe where the beauty we find is an expression of ourselves or God, I guess. That's beautiful.
No. Right. Why are we giving all of the credit to this like thing? I don't get
one
it.
entity.
Crazy. $5 from Kaleidoscope Green for a new light for Taylor. Great show.
Yay! Thank you. You're so sweet. The light fund.
Oh. I think this is you.
$10 from Joshua Everett. The line for the Taylorism priesthood starts behind me.
Yes.
You know what? I probably wouldn't say no to being a cult leader. It depends what's in it for me. You know?
No, I think the good thing is you can make it literally anything you want.
Exactly. So we could be like a group of progressive people doing great things in the world.
Exactly. A love cult. 5 Canadian dollars from Quantum Chaos. Consciousness is an emergent propriety. Did I read it? Yeah. Property. Hello. I knew I was reading that wrong. Consciousness is an emergent property of our neurobiology, and it is on a sliding scale. Just electrons pushing on electrons in fancy new ways. Right. I felt like no matter how many times we explained that, Sam did not want to accept that as the definition for whatever reason.
No. $5 for Monkey at Typewriter. Thanks for taking my call, y'all. Always a huge pleasure to talk to you. And now I have the show to thank for my hashtag bring back the...
Oh, the Vulvatine rabbit. So I have I don't know if you've seen it yet, Taylor. I have like a vulva pillow, and it's like a diagram that I use for like teaching sex education stuff. But it's pillow. And so I keep it upstairs by my desk because I take my coaching calls from there. But we started calling it the Vulvatine rabbit. I should bring it back. So we did have
That's
props.
a cute nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monkey, we're so proud of you. I'm so happy for you, and keep us updated on how it all goes. $9.99 from Hannah Hodgins. Aaron Ra has a great video. I'm assuming that's Aaron. I don't know. Aaron Ra. Aaron. Okay. Aaron Ra. Thank you. Has a great video on mind-body dualism with Dr. Chris Thompson. The piano argument is dead. It's debunked, Sam. Thank you. I will be watching that. Body dualism. Thank you so much, Hannah.
$5 from Lewis Morales. Sam's definitions were definitely a straw man. They were something. I don't know what they were, but they were something.
Boy, were they. Oh, we're done. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Taylor, a pleasure as usual. And oh my God,
Yes.
see you next week. I love that we get to do this together all week or all month long. This is so exciting.
Yeah, and get ready for my bright light because it's coming. You guys should prepare yourselves.
Yeah, no, prepare. You might believe in God after next week. Big day. Thank you, Amargan, and all of our screeners and our mods. Monkey, so happy for you. Thank you to our patrons. We love you guys.